enough to spend the rest of my life with you as you are, with no intention and no plan of changing you, with no plan of making you who I want you to be, molding you, manipulating you into becoming somebody else. You have to be able to say that to yourself. If you cannot say that, if you cannot say that you can marry this person in front of you as they are in their current state, as a complete package, then this isn't the person that you should be looking to marry. And again, someone made the point that people do mature, people do change. And yes, I do believe that that's true. But if you're hoping and praying that change and that maturity will come about at some point, and then you'll be fulfilled, then you'll be completely happy in your relationship, then you're asking for trouble. You're asking for something that plain and simple is trouble. So the third thing, you guys, so we said you can't marry a guy you just met. That's what Elsa said. We change over time. I was married 3 oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Good stuff, you guys. I'm glad you shared that. We just have to be understanding to our husbands less. Yes. Could you still say I do that? Yeah. Right. Can you still say I do to the person that's standing in front of you in their completeness? Right? So the third thing, and when this happened in the movie, I was like, oh, that's kind of jacked up. So for those of you that are just joining, we are talking about the 3 lessons that you can learn from the movie Frozen. And like I said, I mean, you guys know I have 4 kids, and that movie, I could do a one-woman show of that movie. I know it so well. So the first thing we said was when Elsa tells Anna that you can't marry a guy you just met. The second thing we said that is when they sing that song called He's a Bit of a Fixer-Upper. You can't fix somebody. You have to accept them as they are or move on. And then the third thing is when the point of the movie where Anna she's basically at the verge of death, and she needs the kiss from her true love, someone that truly loves her, in order to live. 4 beautiful, thank you, yes, 4 beautiful children. And so she thinks that the guy who she told her sister she was going to marry, the guy that she met in one day and wanted to marry in one day, she thinks this is the love of her life. So her friends rush her to his side, and she and he are alone in a room, and she tells him, I'm dying and I need the kiss of my true love in order for me to live. Right? And what does he say to her? It didn't break my heart, but it was like, wow, that's kind of mean. But he says to her, he says, oh, Anna, if only there was someone in the world who truly loved you. He says that to her, and I was like, well, no, he didn't. No, he didn't just say that. Yes, relationships take time. They take time. But so when he said that, I'm thinking, see, had you listened to your sister, Anna, had you listened to your sister. But here's the takeaway from that. Here's the takeaway from that line. She walked into this one-day relationship kind of blindly, saying that she wanted to marry this person who she didn't know. And now all of a sudden she's surprised that the relationship has failed. She's surprised that she's finding out that he doesn't truly love her. You know, she was in this dream and having this fantasy that this person that she met in one day loves her and, you know, wants to spend the rest of his life with her, when in actuality he had a completely different agenda. Had she spent time doing her research, doing her data collecting, she would have been able to have a better idea of that. She would have seen this coming. She would have seen the red flags. And that's the point of this. I think we don't always like to recognize the red flags. We may see them. They may be high flying right in our face, but we fail sometimes to recognize them and do something about them. sometimes, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes we like to live this fairy tale in our heads that everything's good and the person that we're with loves us. And, who doesn't want the knight in shining armor? Who doesn't want the fairy tale wedding and all of that wonderful stuff? But it's important that we're not ignoring the warning signs. We're not so deep in love that we're ignoring some of the things that could cause the relationship to fail. And this happens, we tend to have this blurred vision when we rely solely on our feelings, when we rely on our feelings to direct our paths. And you guys know that the things that I believe are so important in relationships are prayer, communication, consistency, and what's the last thing? What's the last thing that we learned? Intimacy. But so prayer. If you don't have any kind of prayer, you're not going to have any kind of discernment. It's going to be hard for you to use wisdom in your relationships. You need to have that connection. You need to have that healthy connection with God in order to be able to determine whether or not this person that's in front of you is on the same page with you. If you guys have the same agenda, if you guys are reading off the same script, you know what I mean? So when you start to rely on your feelings and what your heart is telling you more than what your prayer life is offering you, then you start to fall into some of these traps where you're not seeing clearly, you're not seeing the red flags. Well, let me restate that. You're seeing the red flags, but you're not adhering to them. You're choosing not to do anything about them. You're not addressing them. You're maybe seeing them and hoping that they keep going, hoping that they just keep going by, hoping that they don't come to fruition. So don't be surprised, when you jump into a relationship and you're not being prayerful, you're not allowing God to speak to you in your relationship. Don't be surprised when the relationship ends up in a place where you don't want it to be, when it fails, when you have decided you have to move on. Hi, Renee, how are you? So again, and the reason that I thought that third line in the movie had such a great impact is because Anna never saw it coming. She never saw it coming. She thought that this guy was on the same page as her. He was telling her all the right things. He was showing her all the right things. But lo and behold, he had a completely different idea. He had a completely different agenda. And had she taken the time to date him, taken the time to get to know him, do her research, some of these things would have come to light. Some of these things would have been more obvious to her. And she wouldn't have found herself in this heartbroken state. And I think sometimes we like to blame our heartbreak, our experiences where a relationship has failed on other people. We like to say that our mate was the person that broke our hearts, that they are fully to blame. And we forget to take responsibility for our part. We forget to take responsibility for not paying attention to the red flags, for not doing our due diligence in dating, for not taking our time. So I just thought that while watching that movie, those were some really interesting things that we could pull out from that. Intimacy should be covered in that. It is. Well, intimacy is like the fourth. So it's prayer, communication, consistency, and intimacy. Because intimacy is a whole other thing, right? Steven. Yes, definitely under consistency. But intimacy is, it needs its own standalone principle. Prayer, communication, consistency, and intimacy are the principles that I believe are so important in marriage. All right, so thanks for joining me again today. Thanks for the hearts. Thanks for sharing this broadcast. I will be back again tomorrow. I do want to let you know that my schedule has changed rather significantly starting on January 26th. So the scope time will change. And I'm not sure exactly what time I'll be scoping from then on, but I won't be doing it in the morning as I do now. So I'll let you know. You guys, if you're on my email list, you'll get the email, you'll get all that information. If you're not on the email list, where can you go to get on the email list? Jonathan's over here peeking in on me. Yeah, it's like seeing a stop sign and not stopping. I mean, A, you're going to get a ticket, right? But B, you can get hurt. You're asking for trouble. If you see a stop sign, you just roll on through it. What do you expect is going to happen? You're either going to get a ticket, you're going to get hurt, or something else might happen. Nothing will result. You may not get a ticket, you may not get hurt, and you might turn that into a habit. You might continue to roll through stop sign after stop sign after stop sign and think that it's okay. Think that's how you're supposed to live. Think that's how you're supposed to get through life, by just rolling through the stop signs, ignoring God's voice, ignoring wise counsel from people who you trust. So I'm glad you said that. That's a good point. But anyways, you guys, here we should call the Cali stop, right? The Cali stop. I was bitter when I met my boyfriend from past heartbreak. Bitterness can only be removed with prayer. It can only be removed with a healthy line of communication with Christ. The other thing I was going to say, you guys, is make sure that you're following each other here. Not only following me, I hope that you're following me, but I hope that you're following each other. It's great to be able to connect and share with like-minded folks. So make sure you're following each other. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.